light. We need more people with compassion and fewer commandos. Stand up for what's right on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. No more animal rodeos. Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it go. The truth is alive on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. An animal-free fandango. Climate chaos, a dogging planetary plight. Temperatures reaching annual record heights. If the world ends tomorrow, I'll see you in the afterglow. The postmortem's live on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. The One Health message in stereo. Rocket leaves right now. You've got a ticket for this flight. Did you think we'd let you leave alone? The stars are burning bright. Strap in tight, ready for takeoff. Ignition, here we go. It's Monday night and time for your Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Let love be your diamond mo.
Oh my gosh, it's Monday. It's Monday night. I'm Skyjack Morgan, and over there, that's
I'm Dr. Crystal Heath.
Dr. Crystal Heath's in the house. The doctor's in the house for Vegan World Radio. We'll be your host tonight for this 1 full hour, coming straight out of Space City, Houston, on 90.1 FM KPFT. And if you're on the web, you can listen to us at kpft.org in case you miss any moment of the action. And I want to mention also we'll be back on the 7th, July 7th. So we're going to take a break on June 30th. Ocean and Patrick are going to host on June 30th, and we'll be back on July 7th. I can't wait. Crystal, I don't always get to talk to a veterinarian on the radio, and this big thing just happened with the AVMA, these resolutions. Could you tell me what an AVMA is and what resolutions are?
Are you hosting a radio show that I'm not aware of, where you talk to somebody else other than me? What's that about?
Well, I go live. Okay, so I have a YouTube channel that I'm on. I'm on live every day, so it's not like I can have every veterinary question answered at the tip of my fingers. It's not like we have a signal chat or anything where I can reach out to you at any time of day. But maybe, okay, not everyone has the privilege that I do, having a veterinarian on speed dial. But maybe everyone else would like to know what AVMA is and why they have resolutions.
Well, the American Veterinary Medical Association is the group that basically sets policies related to how we care for animals in the United States. But this has worldwide implications because around the globe, other countries look to the American Veterinary Medical Association to figure out how they're going to set their own policies. So not only does the AVMA's policies and resolutions affect animals here in the United States, but it affects animals globally. And this is why animal advocates need to be focused and attuned to what the American Veterinary Medical Association is doing, especially since the American Veterinary Medical Association says it represents the 100,000 veterinarians in the United States, but it really doesn't. The vast majority of veterinarians disagree with the AVMA policies, and the AVMA tends to serve corporate interests over the interests of veterinarians and our patients.
Well, the AVMA also says that it's looking out for the welfare and well-being of the billions of animals here in America too, and I don't really trust them on that
either. And
Yeah.
this should anger all of us, and it should anger especially veterinarians, but most veterinarians do not have their ear to the grindstone and understand what the American Veterinary Medical Association is doing, what influences them. I think the vast majority of veterinarians say, oh, my colleagues are, making sure everything's okay. And let me tell you, if you knew the bullying and retaliation that veterinarians who are AVMA members face when we try to speak up and try to change the AVMA's policies, they would it's just not well known, and it's something that we are speaking more and more about. So the AVMA convention, their annual convention, is being held in July 18th to 22nd in Washington, D.C. The AVMA House of Delegates will be voting on these resolutions, and these are basically the AVMA's stances on various animal issues.
Well, thank heavens that we have a veterinarian here on Vegan World Radio to lay it all out for us, so that the plausible deniability of all those other vets becomes less of an issue. Just like you said, people like, oh well, my colleagues are taking care of this. It's someone else's problem. Someone else is doing this. I have a couple questions about it too, as a layperson. But maybe you could tell me what your the resolutions that you saw, like what kind of stuck out to you, and then maybe I can ask my questions, kind of throw them at you as curveballs. What do you say?
Sure. Okay. So resolution 9 through 15, I'm just going to run through them real quick. Pediatric sterilizations of dogs, cats, and rabbits. Nothing too controversial here. We can nitpick, but I don't want to waste too much time on this. Therapeutic pet food health claims. This might be interesting to some people. We can go through it a little bit, but honestly, don't want to waste too much time. Resolution 10, you can read it for yourself, come to your own conclusions. Maybe we can have its own show about that. Resolution 11, this is the one we should dive into.
Oh, sow housing.
Sow housing, how we house mother pigs in commercial pig production. Does the AVMA condemn gestation crates? We will see. Resolution 12, declawing of domestic house cats. What do you think the AVMA's stance is on that? We will see. And now that there are various groups are trying to ban declawing across the United States.
A lot of places have banned them, and more are trying to ban them, right? Like we're trying to ban the declaw procedure because it's horrific. It's like
horrific.
It's like a Saw movie.
Veterinarians are forced to waste their time counseling people on why they shouldn't declaw.
Why they shouldn't mutilate an animal.
It's hard to get a veterinary appointment. Veterinary appointments are very expensive. You should be angry that your vet is wasting their breath trying to convince somebody not to declaw. It should just be banned. But
I know I am.
We can go into that.
Okay.
Pain in animals. This is ironic. We can dive into this a little bit. A Model Veterinary Practice Act. This is just bureaucracy. It's not too interesting. But I mainly want to go into sow housing and declawing and mitigating hazards in the veterinary workplace. This is another thing we could dig into, but really sow housing and declawing of domestic cats are two resolutions that I'd really like to read and see what exactly they say.
Well, I'd also like to throw you a curveball, because another thing was the cellular agriculture policy was pushed back. A proposal aimed at endorsing research, production, and sale of cultured animal protein products was brought forward, but the House of Delegates did not pass it.
Yeah.
They want further investigation into veterinary roles in this emerging field. That is something that stuck out to me, because what the heck are we talking about? I thought veterinarians were animal doctors. Why do we need veterinarians for cell meat?
This was outrageous because great House of Delegate advocate Martha Smith Blackmore introduced this resolution just to get the AVMA to support animal-free food production, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the arguments that were had at the winter meeting were ridiculous. And basically, one veterinarian said this would imply that veterinarians aren't concerned with animal welfare or something, or like what we're doing in food production isn't animal welfare aligned. And it's like, yeah, if the shoe fits, for sure. Yeah, what you're advocating for is not animal welfare aligned. When you're talking about mass killing of farmed animals by sealing up buildings and pumping in heat and waiting for animals inside to die, and you're doing everything in your power to make sure that billion-dollar corporations get bailouts when they use that method of mass killing, 100%, you guys are not focused on animal welfare. And this sow housing resolution really also says that too. But that movement to support animal-free meat, unfortunately, was killed at the last meeting. So,
is that right? Okay, so
yeah.
it was kind of just put off or something. It was like, we're not going to talk, but they're tabling it or something.
Yeah, a lot of people
Okay.
are like, I didn't know anything about this, which is just how veterinarians are so focused on our own little slice of the field. We don't see how the whole thing fits together, and how we should be interested in animal-free food production, in farm animal housing, and in declawing, no matter what part of the veterinary field you're in, if it's just companion animal medicine, if it's farmed animals, if you're a lab animal vet, you should be concerned about everything that's going on. And you should read through these resolutions and know what the AVMA is voting on.
Okay, so I did also notice that in the resolutions, the H5N1, something that we talk a lot about here on this show, but all over the internet too. We talk about this a lot. A new science-based biosecurity policy was approved, urging AVMA to publish and maintain educational resources, emphasizing that we shouldn't let the perfect interfere with the good. What the heck? So, I mean, I don't know what this even means.
The goal of all of these AVMA resolutions seems to be so that producers can go to the media and say, we are following AVMA approved guidelines when mass exterminating animals, when housing animals, when dealing with this avian influenza outbreak.
Yeah.
It's vague enough language that allows corporations to do whatever they want and say that they are following what the veterinarian said. And veterinarians should be pissed that our reputation is being used this way. But can we just dive into the sow housing?
Yeah, sure. Pharaoh to
and
finish. Let's talk about it. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about the deer thing too, but yeah, let's talk about sows.
I'm not sure. I don't know if you're reading old resolutions or the
No, I'm reading
ones.
from 2025. Yeah, from this one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
The AVMA encourages. Is that the winter one or the summer one?
The one that just came out. The one that you sent me.
No, that's different than what is in the outline. The AVMA encourages the use of properly managed and improved housing systems that provide for enhanced sow welfare. There are welfare advantages and disadvantages with any type of sow housing. Decisions about sow housing should weigh scientific evidence and incorporate veterinary professional judgment. Sow housing and management systems, or they remove systems. Sow housing and management should provide every animal access to appropriate food and water, promote good air quality, and allow proper sanitation, protect sows from detrimental effects associated with environmental extremes, particularly temperature extremes, reduce exposure to hazards or conditions that result in injuries, pain, distress, fear, or disease to sows and piglets, facilitate evaluation and care of individual animals. That kind of sounds like it could condone gestation crates. Provide alternative housing for sows based on evaluation of each sow's individual needs. Provide sows with adequate quality and quantity of space that allows sows to assume normal postures. Well, there you go. Allows sows, and piglets to express highly motivated behaviors while avoiding or minimizing expression of abnormal, repetitive behaviors and aggression. Include appropriate and ongoing training for people handling and working with sows to ensure they are provide and promote good welfare within the management system being used. And it removed a lot of the language of there are advantages and disadvantages to any sow housing system. The AVMA also encourages ongoing research to improve social housing to better meet sow and piglet welfare needs. So it doesn't ever explicitly say that it condemns the use of gestation crates.
No.
But it says all of these other things that does point to the fact that maybe the sows should not be kept in gestation crates because it couldn't meet all of these needs. So I don't know, some improvements, but again, the AVMA also approved language in the EATS Act, which was a bill that was going to be introduced into the Farm Bill, that would overturn a state's ability to limit the sale of pig meat from sows that were housed in gestation crates,
Right.
from being sold into their state. So like a state like Texas couldn't say that we will not allow pig meat to be sold in Texas that comes from sows, that comes from pigs whose mothers were raised in gestation crates. The AVMA stopped that, stopped states' ability to do that with this new language that was introduced into the EATS Act. So,
yeah, I mean, the EATS Act was, it's funny. We're not calling it, they called it something,
no,
they're calling
now
it
it's
something else now. They're rebranding the EATS Act. So, I mean, yeah, the EATS Act is interesting because we get into issues between like state commerce and states' rights are so important right now and really on the radar. So it's bizarre that this administration and the current kind of the majority of both houses want to kind of pick and choose what states' rights they like and which ones they don't. And so they're kind of losing any kind of leg they had to stand on. So, for example, Tennessee wants to pass an anti-trans law. The Supreme Court says they can do that because that's their state right. But California passes a law about how they don't want pigs from gestation crates, and Supreme Court backs it up, but now the feds are trying to pass a new law, the EATS Act, to say that that's not kosher because of interstate commerce. Blows my mind that would be a thing, that they're picking and choosing these things. That doesn't seem like there's any kind of guiding light principle or lodestone that we can look to try to understand what this country's doing. But certainly they don't care about animals, that's for sure.
Or they wouldn't view themselves as that way. They view themselves as caring deeply about animals.
Oh.
And animal rights activists like us are overly emotional, just trying to get donations for our organizations. And we want to see the genocide of domestic animals. And we want to deny people the ability to eat the food that they want. That's how they frame it. And we frame it as they don't care about animals, which
there's lots to care about.
Two framings are in opposition. So I prefer, how do we have a dialogue?
No, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that the people raising the animals, I'm not even accusing them. I'm accusing our lawmakers at the federal level are, first of all, undermining states' rights, the will of the people in these states. If the state votes that way, why is it okay for the people of Tennessee to vote to say that trans people don't have the same rights, or whatever state? Tennessee's the latest one that's kind of been in the news. It's okay for the people to exert their will that way about other humans who have rights, whereas we want to protect rights of animals, or not even rights. We want to mitigate their suffering to some degree, and the people of California voted for that, and now the federal government wants to pass laws to undermine the will of the people. So we have to decide. You can't say that Tennessee is cool with their anti-trans bill because of the will of the people. And then on the same, or whatever, or ICE, or the military, or any of these things, let's say, well, the will of the people, more people voted for Donald Trump, and that's why we're doing these things. Okay, well, more people voted to ban gestation crates. Well, that's not okay. Why isn't it okay? Well, because that's who's lining my pockets. That's what it ends up being about. People like Jim Costa being paid all this money, or it's always about the money again and again, and it's disgusting.
Well, again, I hate to say it's all about the money, because is there any amount of money that somebody could pay you to get you to be a shill for the industry? No.
If I were a politician, I think that
You would?
no, but I do think that those questions become more potent when you're a politician. Like, we've got lots of examples throughout history of people who were activists, freedom fighters even, who once they entered the political realm changed. I mean, our current president, he was a different person before politics. I think everyone can agree with that at this point on both sides,
I
no
think
matter
our
how you feel
environments
about him.
do shape us, and I think that's what the system of incentives that is set up can shape us over time.
Yes, and when it comes to money, it depends. Like, I've never been a person who's purely motivated by money, and I think someone like Donald Trump or other billionaires, Elon Musk or whatever, they have an addiction to money. So a lot of times we'll be like, oh, well, they don't need the money, so they won't be beholden to special interests. But then it turns out when they're in power, guess what? They're beholden to special interest again. Why? Because they're addicted to money. I mean, we see it time and time again. So you're right. I guess I don't think there would be a number that someone could pay me to vote to undermine the will of the people and also undermine any kind of feelings I have about animals. I don't think so. But I think that question is a lot harder to answer when you are hey, we've got someone, if you don't vote our way, they're going to ruin your career in politics and you won't ever get anything done. If you don't give this up, you'll never get anything done because you'll be out of politics.
Well, that's the calculus that a lot of veterinarians make when we are trying to advocate for the best interests of animals.
Yeah.
A lot of veterinarians that I speak to are trying to work their way up the AVMA and get on committees and make a difference. But they also are like, well, now I can't speak out against the AVMA because I'm trying to work with them. I'm not going to speak out in the media about the animals because I think I can change the system from within. And I'm more powerful if I, stay quiet now and then get that position and then change. But then they get sucked into the system. I find.
I feel that.
And we lose the voices of so many veterinarians who would speak to the media, and they're not, because they think that they can play nice with the system.
Which is tragic, because I think that it's an industry that is in desperate need of leadership. And I think there's a few industries like that. I felt that way about food and beverage and hospitality. And I felt, well, if I just stay quiet and I do a good job, I'll let this go, but I'll have this other goal where I'll try to get more vegan items on menus. I'll try to get more of this, blah, blah, blah. And what ends up happening? You end up towing the line for the man. You end up you become owned. And yeah, and I feel like this is a more important question than ever. People ask me all the time now, because I do No Kings protests, I do other activism. They're like, well, you're an animal rights activist first, right? Why do you care about human rights? And I think that's crazy, because even if it's just selfishly, I want to live in a country where I'm allowed to be an animal rights activist. I won't be allowed to if things keep going the way they're going. And I think it's important to stand up for freedom of speech and find leadership opportunities where they're needed. I think it's tragic that vets, who are ostensibly supposed to be our guardians, the animals' guardians, and our kind of human advocates for animals, and they're not.
And what about the rights of cats to keep their claws? This is another AVMA resolution that I just want to read through so you understand where the AVMA is at. While there are states trying to ban declawing, this is what the AVMA says about declawing. The AVMA strongly discourages veterinarians from performing onchiectomy, tenectomy, or any other surgical procedure intended to prevent the normal use of the animal's claws that is not medically necessary. The amputation or other surgical alteration of the distal digits is acutely painful procedure and often results in chronic pain, maladaptive behavior, disability, and significant mutilation. Onchiectomy is a surgical amputation, and if performed, multimodal perioperative pain management must be utilized. Scratching is a normal behavior of cats that conditions the claws, serves as a visual and scent territorial marker, allows for self-defense, and provides healthy muscle engagement through stretching. The AVMA respects the veterinarian's right to use professional judgment when deciding how to best protect their individual patient's health and welfare.
Great.
It is incumbent upon the veterinarians to counsel owners about the natural scratching behavior of cats, effective alternatives to surgery, as well as the details of the procedure itself, and known short and long-term complications. So that's the AVMA is forcing veterinarians to have these long, drawn-out conversations with cat, in quotations, owners, instead of just allowing veterinarians to support statewide bans on declawing and end the need to waste veterinary time
Well, the AVMA
convincing
could
people
endorse
not
them.
to declaw their cats.
The AVMA could endorse the bans as well. There's bans on that are going through legislature in almost every state now, many municipalities all around America. And the AVMA could just back them, just endorse. They don't have to do anything.
Yet they're not. They're siding with the few veterinarians who,
Why?
you know, I think the AVMA views it as it's partially like a grudge match between veterinarians who are supportive of animal protection and the veterinarians who want to hold on to all procedures and don't want advocates to win and remove the veterinarian's right to perform declawing. And they've,
They don't want to lose those
gaslit
dirty
us.
hippies. Those dirty hippies. We're not going to let them win.
We can't, slippery slope. Yeah, they've gaslit us. Some veterinarians really believe that if they aren't allowed to declaw, that elderly patients that are immunocompromised are going to have to give up their cats because their cats are going to scratch them.
But I read a statistic saying that cats that are declawed are given up more than others. That they're actually surrendered or abandoned more often than cats with claws.
The elderly person who declaws their cat because they're on blood thinners or immunocompromised, the cat ends up biting them, ends up peeing outside the litter box.
Yeah.
It is not good. And all of the AVMA keeps reiterating all of these outdated arguments when now there's decades of research showing that municipal and statewide bans on declawing help cats, they help veterinarians, they help their patients, they help their clients. And the AVMA is ignoring all of that to support a few veterinarians who want to declaw. So.
Well, I mean, seeing as how 80-something% of cats who get bird flu die, we might be seeing there might not be any more cats here pretty soon because we can't.
Now you're just talking crazy vegan talk.
Just talking. Well, okay. So let me ask you this then. This is more realistic. It's become more realistic as of late. Why can't we just genetically modify cats to no longer grow claws?
Could do that the way we genetically modify. We've already genetically modified all these weird dog breeds, and we've genetically modified cows to not produce horns and produce more milk than nature ever intended.
Yeah. So, but now there's this CRISPR gene therapy now where it's like scissors where they can cut out certain genes and they can go in and almost surgically edit the code, the genomic code. So now they're trying to do this with the USDA has just approved this with cows and pigs, which sounds freaking, I feel like I'm in the Matrix. I feel like this is Soylent Green. I don't know. It feels dystopian. We've just approved that cows and pigs can be genetically modified with DNA manipulation. We're not talking about selective breeding like what was done in the past, which has been detrimental to the pig. Pigs are far more susceptible to viruses now. Cows are more susceptible to things like mastitis because they're growing they're 100 pounds of milk how much a month? How much do they
100
do?
pounds of milk a day.
A day, 100 pounds of milk a day per cow. And we're like, I remember the first time I heard that that 90% of them have mastitis, and then when I heard they're doing 100 pounds a day, oh, that's why. Because we've genetically modified them to have so much milk that it's just.
But what if we genetically modify them to never suffer?
Okay, that's a great question, right? The CRISPR is saying that we're going to genetically modify cows to be less susceptible to heat, or just to
what if they experience? We genetically modify them to experience nothing but bliss, no matter what is happening.
Yeah, does that make it okay to enslave them? Does that make it okay to lock them up, and make it so they never see pasture? Would that be all right? I mean, if we genetically modify their brains through this CRISPR method, which is crazy. So there's lots of things to say against it, right? So they have bliss, nothing but bliss. It's highly unlikely because it often will make it so that they could tolerate conditions or just don't show that they're suffering. That's usually what it is.
But again, what if we can make a systems where the cows don't suffer at all?
What if? I think that seeing as how we're going down this path anyway, right? Of course, I'm against enslaving others, no matter whether or not they are makes them happy, whether or not because I think it's antithetical to the human, to my humanity to enslave another. I think it's antithetical to human dignity. I think it's beneath our human dignity to enslave others. So even if we were able to alter a species to serve us that way, that would be the original sin that leads us down a path of iniquity. I would be against it. Of course I am. Aren't you?
Well, I just think that making milk via precision fermentation is unnatural.
Yeah, that's unnatural.
But genetically modifying cows
Yes.
to experience nothing but bliss is lions eat gazelles.
Totally
same
natural.
thing.
using the genetic modification scissors to make animals. This is what's so crazy. It throws the appeal to nature fallacy right out the window, doesn't it? Lions,
at what
though.
point did we throw the appeal to nature fallacy out the window? Like at the point where we confine animals in mass, genetically select them, feed this high-tech feed,
Artificially inseminate them.
we milk them with robots. Like at what point will we lose the appeal to nature? Like,
Well,
but
yeah.
precision fermentation, cow's milk, that's just
unnatural.
weird.
Yeah. It's funny. I think that the appeal to nature fallacy falls apart the moment we invented a cage. And when I saw the new what's the wizard movie with it's women
Wicked?
wizards. Wicked, yes. They're not called wizard, they're called witches. They're called witches. And there's a huge part about it about putting animals in cages. And I thought, oh my gosh, somebody gets this idea that once we put animals into cages, that was the first departure. Cages are unnatural. No other animal puts another animal in a cage and breeds them and forces them into these confined areas. But CRISPR it's here. It's been approved by the USDA kind of quietly while we were bombing other countries. This kind of like just snuck in under the radar. Anytime we're bombing somebody else, and I should mention that every time we bomb somebody else, I do actually feel for the animals that are dying because of nuclear leaks or whatever's happening. Animals, no one ever talks about them, but through all these wars all over the world, they're always completely ignored. Those casualties are never counted. But okay, there's usually unintended consequences for gene editing. Just like I said with pigs, we have immune dysfunctions, developmental defects, higher disease susceptibility, and long-term health problems. Well, it'll be kind of funny. I think that's the one that's actually going to happen. It'll be, oh, we have to kill them because we've genetically modified them to the point that they have long-term health problems.
They're already making
Yeah.
that argument whenever somebody rescues a broiler chicken.
Yeah.
Everybody, all the veterinarians especially, go on and go like, oh, that's sad. That broiler chicken's only gonna suffer after 6 months. They're meant to be killed and live a short life.
Yeah.
And same thing with pigs. It's unfair to keep these pigs alive for many years because they were just genetically selected to grow so fast.
And genetically selected to grow so fast so that they're more susceptible to cancer. Wow, what do you know when you genetically? So they're getting more and more tumors as they at younger ages, but it wouldn't normally matter since most pigs are killed in under 6 months. It doesn't matter that they get cancer.
Yeah.
But that's what people are eating. Like, I can't believe, Crystal, there's somebody listening right now who isn't vegan and they eat pigs every day and they're eating pigs that have been genetically modified for cancer. And this is back in 2020 that this report came out about this. And now in 2025, we're saying, let's do it some more. Let's genetically modify them further with this new technique.
I don't know if it's a compelling argument to get people to resist the $1 billion of marketing and change their habits when all of their social circle around them is eating animals, and it would be weird and emasculine to not eat animals.
To not eat a pig,
I don't think the argument that we're
6-month-old.
genetically selecting pigs to grow more cancer is like a very compelling argument.
Is it
to
compelling?
push
Maybe
back.
not. I don't
No.
think it's a compelling in the face of propaganda, but then little is. I mean, propaganda is how we trick people into allowing their neighbors to be kidnapped by masked men in the middle of the day and put into concentration camps. I mean, that's how propaganda works, and no one does anything. So why would I
Interesting
think that I
story
can
from
fight?
work today, because before I came here, I was at work and spaying and neutering a bunch of dogs and cats. My
Yeah.
coworker, friend was absconded with, is here legally in the United States
Legally,
Um,
legal resident.
as a political refugee,
Oh,
did not have their papers on them and were taken away by ICE.
or so we think.
Yeah.
We think they're ICE. I mean, did they have badges or IDs,
I
or
don't
did
know
they
the
show their
details
faces?
about
We don't
it.
know.
Yeah.
That's
But
the
it's very
scariest thing to
sad.
me is that in Minnesota, multiple people were killed by a person impersonating a police officer with a mask on. So why do I trust anyone walking around the streets with masks on?
Yeah.
I don't trust them. If you don't have a badge, there's a new chant that we were doing at the protest this weekend, and it was no badge, no ID, you have no authority. It's like no name, no ID, you have no authority. And it's true. Like,
Yeah.
what happened to,
We're
hey,
just gonna
where's your
let
warrant?
masked people take our people, like
Like our
randomly.
neighbors. Yes.
And I hope everybody, we all at this point know somebody who's been taken by ICE.
That's
Like,
crazy, right?
We all should be talking about this. And we all should be lining up outside of our federal detention center, local federal detention center, and like nonstop out there talking to the media, writing, doing whatever you can. Because at this point, everybody knows somebody who's been taken.
And we've all seen this before. I feel like I'm stuck in a loop now. I mean, now we're bombing a country because they have weapons of mass destruction, right? They're an immediate threat, but we have to do it now because they're helpless. But they're an immediate threat, but they're totally helpless. But they're an immediate threat.
Yeah, I'm re-listening to during surgery the Ken Burns Vietnam documentary that's 17 hours. And God, it's all the same. It's just the same thing. We don't learn.
We don't, and I feel like it ties back in with this, like when we talk about eugenics, because I always go back to, of course, those times, because I feel like the way we treat animals this is just another form of eugenics. For when I was a kid, we were talking about how someday they'll breed animals with no heads so that we can continue to eat them, but they won't suffer. And I feel like this is what we're talking about now, where we're going to breed them and not allow them to. It's just crazy to me.
Cell cultivated meat must be banned.
Yeah, cell cultivated meat has to be
Must be banned.
I don't know.
We can't call soy milk because that confuses people.
That confuses people. Exactly. I don't know. I'm not always sure how I feel about cell-based meat, but we don't have too much time. We're halfway through, and this is Vegan World Radio. I hope you're listening. If you miss any moment of this broadcast, please go to kpft.org and check it out. This is KPFT 90.1 in Houston. I like calling it Space City, Houston. I've been thinking a lot about space ever since I saw Elon Musk's rocket blow up again. I don't know. I have a little bit of schadenfreude every time I see it. The biotech narrative is co-opting the language of sustainability and science for this. I think that there's something there as well, ignoring liberation, ethics, and the alternatives to animal free, like animal free alternatives. You're right. But the other question I had just for you was, why are vets left out of decisions like this? Why are vets left out of decisions when it comes to these weird biohack things that they're doing?
I don't think we're left out of these decisions. I think some of us are integral into these technologies and are advocating for it. And the rest of us are so focused on just talking to the client in front of us, getting the patient in front of us taken care of, and then just being exhausted at the end of the day, taking care of the kids, making sure the family gets fed, paying the bills, that we don't have time to dig into this and think of these big picture things. And I think a lot of veterinarians need to rethink how they structure their lives. You should not be working, well, unless you really want to, like 40 hours a week. We make a lot of money, and I would say it's far better to just work a couple of days a week, make your practice more efficient. So you're like me, I work 2-3 days a week and spay and neuter 100 animals a week.
Yeah.
And it's highly rewarding. And then I spend the rest of my time focused on these big picture issues and trying to, and I save a lot of time. We'll send out newsletters and keep you all informed about what is going on and how you can take action and what petitions you need to sign, and sending form letters to your delegates members. But unfortunately, our mailing list doesn't have all 125,000 veterinarians in the United States in it yet. But all animal advocates out there can help us by telling your veterinarian about our honor. If you're so inclined, learn more at ouronor.org to see what the vets are up to and what the vets are doing. And, and
reach out to Dr. Crystal Heath on X. And also, you can always find her there.
Yeah.
And maybe you can answer the question. I want to ask our listeners a question. Should we be editing animals to fit factory farms, or editing ourselves out of the system entirely? Like, what if we edited ourselves in that way to make sure that we don't, I don't know. I don't think we should be, I think we can just leave the system and not perpetuate it. But what if we're going to edit anyone's genes, shouldn't we be editing our own so that we have, I don't know. I guess we're not really
what kind
dependent.
Of gene ed? Well, I heard that there's a little kid saved through CRISPR, and I'm all for that.
I'm thinking of editing ourselves. So you know how that tick, the Lone Star tick, the Lone Star tick, because it looks like the Texas flag, it gives people alpha gal syndrome, so that they become deathly ill if they eat an animal, any kind of animal protein, including milk and eggs. That, I think maybe we should edit ourselves so we all have that.
Wow. Limiting people's choices through weird science.
I don't think editing a pig, better than editing a cow.
I think the optics of that are really bad, and there's 100 other better talking points we could make for supporting animal liberation, other than enforcing a gene to make us all sick from eating animals.
Well, like you said, you were editing a bunch of dogs and cats. You were spaying and neutering dogs and cats, but in your free time, you advocate for animals, and the news called you. I saw a news broadcast where someone in California is banning horse racing at some state fair or something. I saw you on the news.
The California Horse Racing Board voted 4-3 to deny race dates for the big Fresno fair and another fair in Ferndale. And said, yay, that's a win. Ultimately, the talking points that the California Horse Racing Board used would be that it kind of stretched that racing industry in that state too thin, and they wanted to concentrate horse racing on one regional area. So ultimately, I think they did it for economic reasons rather than animal reasons. But there were 3 horses that died.
So
at
that's why,
that
okay.
one racetrack, and so they called me to talk on that, and I'm basically like, yeah. This always happens on the racetrack. I am a lifelong horse person. I've rescued off the track thoroughbreds. In vet school, I saw firsthand how awful the horse racing industry is, because people who were in horse racing would bring their horses to us. And it seemed like the system of incentives that prioritized winning and profit over the best interests of animals really meant that these horses seemed to be disposable to these people.
Boy, they're grist for the mill, aren't they? I mean, isn't the horse slaughter pipeline also replete with the rejects of this industry, the ones that can't ever really race? I mean, they're breeding all these horses as race horses. Not all of them become.
Well, there are statistics on which horses end up sending to slaughter, and it's the vast majority of them are people who become economically destitute and just sort of random horses that go unwanted. And most of them are quarter horses, not thoroughbred race horses. But a certain percentage are, because there's this whole rehoming thing. Like after a thoroughbred racehorse is done with their career, then they're rehomed to a different career. Usually an adult amateur will get a horse and retrain them. But when that adult amateur becomes economically destitute or something, the horse will end up going to slaughter. And I'm sure there's some horses that go directly from the racetrack to slaughter.
Okay, but
too.
what about
So
tradition here? We got 140 years of tradition at that place that was doing it in Fresno. 140 years go by. It's not a big deal. All of a sudden, it's a big deal because 3 horses died in 140 years. Like, what
was I just reading about? King George loved cockfighting. It was the cockpit. Benjamin Franklin met King George in the cockpit, and that's when he was basically humiliated and in a discussion with him or something. And so that there's a tradition of cockfighting among English people. And I think we're all fine with that going away. There's a tradition of, all sorts of abuses of women. The tradition of the scold's bride or whatever, that thing that you'd put on your wife's head if she's too
right,
too
the
much.
thing that, right, yeah, the thing that the little metal cage they put on. I think of bear baiting. I think a lot of these animal sports that we circuses, we try to get rodeos, bullfighting. These are ridiculous, antiquated anachronisms that we need to abandon. But in 140 years, these 3 horses died, and all of a sudden, everyone's up in arms and wants to get rid of these. But you said it was more of like a financial thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
But it shows that the horse racing industry is becoming spread too thin. There's a lot of racetracks closing down and stuff. So I think it's a sign that it's becoming condensed, smaller, which is a good thing. And
So
hopefully it's a sign that it's going away.
You think it'll lead to more like nationwide or even nationwide bans in different states, maybe?
Well, there hasn't really been any bans, have there? Hopefully more advocates can focus their energy on getting racetracks closed down and preventing new racetracks from forming. I was recently at the animal welfare American College of Animal Welfare short course, and they talked about these unsanctioned races that are now picking up steam and actually seem to be economically like more stronger than the sanctioned racing. But they're like they have no rules regarding doping. You can dope up these horses whatever you want, and these horses are just like bodybuilders hugely swole, and they're all quarter horses mostly in these unsanctioned races. So they're just like hugely muscular quarter horses that they dope up. And as a result of all this doping, they're spreading diseases.
Oh, the
And
doping spreads disease. I was wondering
yeah,
because wouldn't you see fewer injuries if they're all buff, you know? But I guess
no, actually, well, there was speculation by this veterinarian that there were more injuries, and there are some catastrophic injuries that are filmed and on the internet.
so. I
But
every time I look into this, I find that like the injuries a lot of times happens because we race them too young. They're not fully
mhm,
developed. We're racing them injured. They shouldn't be on the racetrack because they have microfractures or whatever.
yeah,
But then it's also I always hear about this doping thing. That's so interesting that maybe it's spreading disease. I I'm curious about that. Like with all this doping, okay, let's say we can breed them to have experience nothing but bliss through this new CRISPR technology, and they never get injured, and also they're buff and they're strong. Would that make it okay? Would it be okay then to use
I think it's
animals?
just fundamentally wrong to do that to another for profit.
Okay,
So, and
got it.
I am all for the human animal bond, and I think humans were meant to have relationships with other species, but as soon as money starts to become involved, then it all gets warped, and I
Yeah, it
think
seems
we
like
need to
we're
take the money out of it.
it always seems like we're entering the animal kingdom into our really messed up, flawed, and disturbing economic system. They are not part of it, and yet we continuously force them into our economic system, and it's wrong. The reification thing, and I think that there's a lot there. Well, speaking of the money, um, unfortunately, uh, Texas is doubling down on horse racing. They're not closing it, they're actually expanding it. In 2019, Governor Abbott signed HB 2463, establishing a new tax on horse related goods in order to up the race purses. He wants 25 million annually to go into race purses and industry support. He thinks that we just need more money to win.
Interesting. I've always proposed a tax on horse-related goods that goes to sanctuaries to ensure that
I
all
like that idea.
horses never go unwanted and will be taken care of for the rest of their life. But here he's like from bigger purses. That
Our
seems
governor disagrees. He wants more money for when the horse wins. That's what he
again.
for the horse, of course. For the horse,
Yeah.
yeah. That's for the money goes to the horse, right? Because the
So
horse
what
gets more
happens to the
apples.
horses that don't win? That's
The
we're
glue
not never
factory.
caring about the horses who don't win.
Yeah. He also more recently in 2023, HB 1995 mandated that 1% of each simulcast wager, 1.25% of cross-species wager, that's one term I don't know, the
I don't know
cross-species
what
wager,
that is.
goes to fund, but it's like a 1% or 1.25 percent tax to fund Texas Racing Commission. Because the state
Interesting.
wants to financially back the racing commission. We have to pay those racing commissioners more money. Now, we're talking a big amount of money, 1% of
Again, I
all
think
wagers.
imagine if all that 1% went to horse sanctuaries to take care of unwanted horses, went to
Yeah.
veterinarians to take care of those
I don't
unwanted
actually care
horses.
where the money goes. If it goes to something that's helping society, I think that would be pretty cool. It could go to homeless people for all I
Yeah.
care. Um, but yeah, it'd be nice to go to horses or dogs and cats or wherever. I don't know. Anything. Research for cell-based flesh, maybe that would be cool. Legislative moves toward legalized gambling at racetracks. We've got some movement also in Texas. Um, they're pushing for constitutional amendments to authorize casino gaming and sports betting at racetracks. So that's really important. Those are a lot of states are doing this. Texas is not an is no exception. They're trying to get more. So they, you know how when you go into a casino, the sports book is making a lot of money. So they want you to be able to walk into a horse track and not just bet on horses, but also play slots, play cards, or bet on other sports, human sports, if you'd like, while you're there, just to get more money. What do you think about that?
I don't, I think gambling is bad,
You think
honestly.
gambling's bad?
I don't think people should be gambling on anything. I think it, a lot of people are addicted to gambling, and
Now
I think
who's
it should be
limiting
okay.
people's choices, Crystal?
Well, I don't know.
Now who's into limiting? All right, so then the last one I saw was the
Again, I don't know if we should legislate it like in this way.
If we do, what's crazy is that it's legislating it. We've legislated it in the past. Well, Texas has, and most states have. Even Nevada, they have laws kind of mitigating the effects on people. There's laws like when I worked in Las Vegas, they have. I mean, it's a little bit of a scofflaw, but we have laws about not being able to serve people, not be able to use people who are addicted. We have to give them literature to explain to them what this addiction looks like. We have all sorts of rules about it. But those laws are going away. And the last one was that we're legalizing account wagering. In 2023, we're trying to legalize account wagering and pari-mutuel betting as licensed Texas tracks. And that's just, if you don't know what that is, that's kind of like you bet on all of these different, it doesn't matter. It's like almost like a lottery style. You bet on a bunch of different outcomes and those outcomes pay out differently, which is a different type of betting called pari-mutuel betting. And if you're a Vegas guy, you know about it. It seems crazy to me, but the racino model, which is casinos with racetracks with casinos, seems to be growing in popularity in Texas, not shrinking. I think we have a lot of work ahead of us, Crystal.
Well, we are reaching the end of the hour, but if you may have missed any of the show, you can always hear it again at the archives at kpft.org. Please tune in again for Vegan World Radio next Monday night, where Ocean and Patrick will be hosting 7 to 8 p.m. And thank you, Blue, our sound engineer.
And we'll be back on July 7th, right?
And do keep listening for more progressive programming here on KPFT 90.1 FM, Pacifica Radio in Houston, Texas.
And if you want to find Crystal, look for her, Dr. Crystal Heath, on Twitter, and find me, Skyjack Morgan, on
and
YouTube.
On Red Note. Check
Red
me
Note.
out on Red Note.
Stand up for what's right on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. No more animal rodeos. Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it go. The truth is alive on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. An animal-free fandango. Climate chaos, a dogging planetary plight. Temperatures reaching annual record heights. If the world ends tomorrow, I'll see you in the afterglow. The postmortem's live on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. The One Health message in stereo. Rocket leaves right now. You've got a ticket for this flight. Did you think we'd let you leave alone? The stars are burning bright. Strap in tight, ready for takeoff. Ignition, here we go. It's Monday night and time for your Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Let love be your dynamo.
KPFT Programmer Profile. This is Michael Woodson, and my show is Living Art. We interview local artists looking at art relative to the pursuit of freedom and peace, and how artists contribute to the next better world. Michael Carson and I are in conversation about topical issues that relate to issues of what matters in the arts and in the world